Welcome to the Treehouse Football Podcast, episode number 1, season number 1. I'm not going to focus too much on the season number 1 because I don't know if we'll, go into a second season or not. But Treehouse Football Podcast number 1.
Yeah.
Welcome to it. I'm Dan O'Malley along with Trey Trenholm. I'm gonna rephrase that. I'm Dan O'Malley along with UT alum Trey Trenholm.
Yeah.
And not Texas State, but Southwest Texas State alum Raj Sharma.
There you go.
I didn't throw mine in because I went to UT Arlington for all of a year and a half, and we didn't even have a football team, so why even mention it? Unless we start doing a Treehouse wheelchair basketball podcast, my college has no bearing in this show.
The comments didn't. Is it the comments? Is that what you guys were? No.
It's UTA Mavericks.
Mavericks. Okay, the comments are UTA.
The wheelchair team is, unless they've changed it, is the Moving Mavs.
The Moving Mavs. All right. Okay.
Don't they have a pretty good basketball team now, don't they?
They do. I'll admit I haven't followed it a whole lot. I'm not sure who was more surprised about the new basketball arena, the basketball team, or anyone that ever went to UTA.
And we had a nice little upset over Baylor. Southwest Texas, or Texas State defeated Baylor in their home opener.
Well, that's exciting. Maybe we can get into that when we touch on the college side of football coming up in the all-new Treehouse Football Podcast. The Treehouse, we've decided to branch out because we're not busy enough, or we apparently don't say enough as it is twice a week during the Treehouse Podcast. We feel the need to also flood your ears with our sports thoughts. So here we are.
I like it when you said we're not busy enough, and I just saw Trey's head turn like, F you, O'Malley. I haven't slept in 3 days. I feel like Elvis on a bender.
Well, that means you probably appear to have more energy than the Giants' offensive line did this last week.
Yes.
Got that going for you. Speaking of surprises, was anybody surprised by the Cowboys' victory Sunday night in the season opener over the Giants, 40-0?
How could you not be?
I mean, I don't know about surprised, more of like the just the moments that were just never ending in the game. Like the moments of like, oh, okay, I didn't see that coming. Oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. Oh, just that over and over again. By the end of it, I was tired.
Well, I was tired after the first, I'd say 6 or 7 minutes, however long it took for the Giants to march down the field, and then the Cowboys to block that kick, return it for a touchdown, and when Trey and I were texting each other, miss the extra point to take a 6-0 lead, to which Trey responded, that was the most Cowboys sequence ever. and he was not wrong. Right then and there, I thought, oh no, they've picked up right where they left off last season, which is do something good and then just look like a total idiot right after it.
Yeah, but I mean, to their credit, you have the kid Aubrey, I think is his last name, that is our place kicker now, has, and God love him for it, had never kicked in the NFL. I don't think he kicked in college. He was a soccer player, and he was drafted in the first round of Major League Soccer, and then I think he went to the USFL for Birmingham.
That is correct. He was in the USFL and missed only one field goal attempt in that previous season.
And to his credit, he missed that one, because I'm sure this is what the conversation was on the sideline when that happened. Because when I heard like his background, the USFL is vastly different than the NFL, right? So,
hey, hang on, Trey. Let's slow clap that.
Yeah.
That is a hot take there from Mr. Raj Sharma.
That is a John Madden take.
That is the kind of professional take you will get here on the Treehouse Football Podcast.
The NFL is harder than the USFL. Let's just end the show right there.
They're both professional football. I'm just saying that was a very John Madden, as like two of these out of these two teams, one's got to win. Like that's the John Madden take.
The only thing you're missing is the marker on the screen.
And a turkey leg.
And an athlete's foot endorsement. All right, so there's 4 things.
Yeah, and then he misses the one kick, and that's his first time to kick in the NFL. And I'm sure he went to the sideline. They're like, he can still fire you, right? It's like, I promise I won't miss again. And then we
will leave you here. There is precedent in Cowboys history where if you F up bad enough, they will not let you on the plane to go back to Texas.
Yeah, it's one of those like you're going to be a giant or homeless, so don't miss another kick. And then I was reading the stats of the game, and it was the blocked field goal for the touchdown return, and the shutout, and then this, and all of those things, and they combined it to no other NFL team has ever suffered all of those things in one season, let alone in one game.
So who gets more credit for that?
Right?
The Cowboys for having forced it upon the Giants, or the Giants just kind of looking like a Benny Hill skit?
I want to see that game set to that music now.
I think that's
honestly, because you could have had the old Benny Hill music playing just on repeat of watching Danny Dimes run around all over the field away from the Cowboys defense.
I flashed back to last week with one of the ESPN guys whose theory was to run at to do everything at Micah Parsons. Like that's what he wants. That was his suggestion to every team is you want to go directly to him. And I'm like, after watching that game, I'm like, I'd like for you to say that again because that didn't seem to work. If that was your philosophy on how to defeat the Cowboys or beat their defenses to run the ball at Micah Parsons.
The other surprise in this game was that Trey, I think you and I in our little text exchange during the game, we touched on this as well. So the Cowboys throw up 40 points, but if we're being honest, the offense was kind of meh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that was disputed in any way.
It's just typically what you would do is if for some reason you were just going through the box scores or you didn't stay up to watch the game and you see the Cowboys beat the Giants on the road 40-0 on Sunday night, you're like, oh my God, their offense clearly just lit it up. When in reality, no, they just kind of went about the day, just like, oh, we're here too, we're just kind of hanging out.
The offensive stats for the game were very pedestrian for Dallas. Like when you look at the score and you go 40-0, you think they would have Dak would have thrown for 400 yards and they would have had all these standout performances, and you just didn't. I mean, and that's the Giants, that first drive up until that last sequence, they were moving the ball at will, and you're going, all right, this is going to be one of those things that's going to be back and forth and come down to a field goal, and then it's like, and then you go, well, were the Cowboys like, sometimes they'll run set plays, like the first 10 plays of offense are already scheduled. I don't know if they do that on the defense. Were they doing that? Then all of a sudden they made adjustments and they just overwhelmed the Giants. Because it's like once that field goal got blocked, it's like the entire will just got sucked out of that team. And then it was the Benny Hill show of just, and then I've never thought I would feel sorry for Daniel Jones, but by the end of that game, Dan and I are texting and I'm going like, they got to take him out. Like, it's like they've got 160 something million wrapped up in that guy. Yeah. And he just took a beating.
He did. And he could have come out looking way worse, despite the fact that, Trey, you're saying you feel bad for Daniel Jones and how he's running for his life in that game. I feel bad for Daniel Jones because to me, Daniel Jones looks like a Beaker on Sesame Street.
So I pondered this question.
I can't unsee that now.
Yeah,
I can't either. In addition to Daniel Jones looking like Beaker from the Muppets, old Giants coach Tom Coughlin. One day watching a game, I saw Tom Coughlin, and all of a sudden, all I could see was he looked exactly like Jeff Dunham's Walter Muppet.
Oh yeah.
Sort of like how you've got Daniel Beaker Jones. You've got Tom, don't call me Walter Coughlin, and Sean Blue Steel Payton. Once you see those things, you can't unsee them. So like I remember
I was wondering if there's something, because I was looking at Daniel Jones and then I was like, is there something with the Giants helmets? Because it almost gave him stupid face like Eli.
It's something with the Giants helmets. I think you're
really
right.
is.
As soon as a human quarterback puts on that Giants helmet, they just immediately go derp.
I just a buddy of mine is from Yonkers, New York, and he's a Giants fan forever. And this is when and we trash talk every single time the Cowboys and the Giants play. And I didn't get a response back from him for this game. I texted. All I said is after, and again, like you said, after that blocked field goal, not only did the will go, I think you could feel the energy get sucked out of that stadium.
I think at that point, if you have any Giants fans after that game, or actually somewhere in the middle of the third quarter, was the time to, as they say, check on your Giants friends.
Yes, and so I just after that blocked field goal, I go, man, you guys are looking good, and I just stopped there, and then the ellipses, ouch. And then we missed that the extra point, and I got nothing back. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Normally this would be right. This would be the appropriate time for him to go, and you were saying? And then
obviously he would have been correct, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of
the game happened, and then he just stayed quiet. Yeah,
exactly. And so
just when you thought things couldn't get any worse for the city and state of New York and their football teams, Monday night comes around,
yes,
and the team that the Cowboys play next, the Jets, their big splash offseason move is getting Aaron Rodgers. They pulled Brett Favre, part 2, and pulled the Packers quarterback over to the Jets. And then how long into the game was it? Was it even 5 minutes? The most running Aaron Rodgers did before he tore what we think is a torn Achilles was him carrying the flag, running out onto the field during the pregame stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel bad for him. I mean, poor guy. I mean,
really?
Here's why. He's done this whole ayahuasca journey, and apparently he used to be a tremendous a-hole, and now he's gone back to former players in Green Bay, and apologized, and he's got his spiritual side is there. He's apologized to his family.
Really?
Yeah.
Have they accepted it? Because
I believe so. Yeah.
Because even the brother.
Yeah, so that the whole thing, because he was on The Bachelor. Remember when he was on The Bachelor? And
it was his brother Jordan Rodgers, and he ended up marrying the girl from Dallas.
Yeah, and and one of the girls that he took home was like, "So do you think Aaron's going to be here?" And he's like, "He hasn't been here in 8 years, so stop asking." I think I think he showed up to his family's thing for the holidays. That was the thing, and here's his moment. He's gone through this spiritual journey, and I admire that. And I'm like, good for you. And he's made amends and all of those good. And he's got a new team. He just bought a new house, $8 million new house.
So it turns out you can make all the amends you want, but karma's still going to get you.
But the turf is a bitch.
Yeah, he didn't make amends with the AstroTurf, did he? Somewhere in that stadium, the turf monster of New York was like, you didn't apologize to me, mother.
Been playing on grass this whole time, huh, bitch? That's the
somewhere down below, the turf monster saying, "Now's my time. I've been waiting for you."
Keep calling me fake grass. How's your foot? And then that moment hit, and you could see it on his face, and I was like, yeah. And they, the whole game just speculation until the press conference when it doesn't look good.
I remember the next morning seeing a slow motion replay, and they had it zoomed in on his lower leg, and you could see the line down the back of his leg just kind of wobble in a way that is in no way natural.
Yeah,
everyone looking at that's like, yeah, he's done.
Yeah, and then you can see if you watch it again, and I'm sure you can go back and look at it, you can see the recoil rolls up into the back of his leg, and and then just his face was like, I'm done. And somebody, I can't remember, I was watching ESPN News early this morning, and they're like, well, he's definitely going to come back. This is not the way he wanted it to go. It's a really, really hard injury to come back from.
Yeah, it's a full year type of situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then to get back, and then just the trepidation of getting back on that turf. And then as much
well,
as
he's gonna have about a year to make amends with the turf monster.
That's what I'm like. Maybe he can go on another ayahuasca journey, and then the turf monster and him can hug it out on a celestial plane somewhere, and then maybe next year he comes back and actually lasts longer than 4 plays.
Jets fans are a special bunch because any like they were so excited before this season started. I mean, if it is the most Jets thing ever of you've got arguably, one of the best quarterbacks ever play the game. And you're like, oh, this is our year. This is our chance. And 4 plays.
Jets. Shit. Are you kidding me?
But for the undrafted kid from Stephen F. Austin to win that game in overtime, like that was like if you saw the Hard Knocks story about him, he basically forced his way onto that team.
Did you say forced or forested? Like as in
no, but he made both.
I like football.
He forced his way basically onto that team, and they got the win, and that was I guess a morale boost. I don't know what they're going to do in that position. That quarterback is clearly 11 years old. He's 11 years old, and
that was the best Zach Martin's played. Like I was actually I think that's. I watched some of that game.
Wait, you said Zach Martin. You mean Zach Wilson?
I'm sorry, Zach Wilson. Yeah. Okay. And I mean, compared.
But to be fair, Trey, Zach Martin also did look really good in the Cowboys game.
Yeah, that's. And I might take him as quarterback over Zach Wilson.
Look, if you're the Jets, all options are on the table.
Because
that's the truth.
What did Zach Wilson? Is this his second or third year?
2.
Yeah.
But, the good thing here about the Treehouse Football Podcast is we're not going to bar you with a bunch of knowledge.
No.
We're not going to bore you with a bunch of knowledge and hard information. A lot of it's going to be conjecture and a lot of just, feelings.
Yeah, you can go listen to that crap anywhere else. This is going to be fun.
Exactly. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. And it was Zach Wilson. You could have said Zach Morris. I mean, like, they look the same. I don't even care. They both got saved by the bell. Like, I don't care how it works.
Yeah. The head coach turns and he's just on the cordless phone. It's like, I got to do what?
He just freezes time.
He has to turn to one of the cheerleaders and make sure she's off the caffeine pills before he can get into the game.
But I mean, year 2, and good. And I hope they find a replacement rather quickly, because he won the game, and that was a team effort. Again, you could feel that, like that when he got off the field, when Aaron Rodgers got off the field, that whole stadium was like, and so do we go now to beat traffic? Like that was the sense of the building. And then they did what they did. And they had that one, Wilson, I don't know his first name, but that catch in the end zone, which that bobbled catch that he just caught laying on his back on the ground was brilliant. Highlight reel number 2, I think it is what it took over.
Well, what's sad about that is I didn't even see that in some of the clips on social media the next morning. It was all Aaron Rodgers' leg recoiling.
Yeah, that's the story, right? But
yeah, I hope Aaron Rodgers' Achilles going the way of a piano chord.
But yeah, but what if this was like, and let's see if we can call this. What if it is one of those great moments in football history where this kid, who's the backup to Aaron Rodgers, who got called into this game, who is just literally. I don't know how he got out of the 6th grade to play that night. I don't know what time his bedtime is, but
it's called the permission slip, Rod.
Okay, we didn't have those. We had permission to do nothing. And then he wins. What if it's like this great? I don't know. What if they go all the way to like they go to the dance? Like what if he is the kid?
Oh no, they're going to go to the dance because it's the 6th grade social.
It's the mommy Sundance.
Uh-huh.
You just see the image of there's some lady over there on the sideline looking at her watch going, your bedtime's midnight, Zach. You better wrap this up. Overtime?
That's just the reporter from ESPN. It's like, I'm going to ask you 4 questions and it's night time.
And it's not a towel that the trainer pulls out to wipe his face. It's his blankie.
want to see the press conference where he's got a juice box in front of him. You did good today, buddy.
And his mouthpiece is an actual pacifier. The NFL really will put those logos on anything.
Is that a binky?
One last piece of Cowboys information before we move on to the college side of things here on the very first episode of the Treehouse Football Podcast. And that is an allegation against Jerry Jones for making racially charged comments. Ruh-roh. There's a new lawsuit that's been filed against the NFL by a reporter named Jim Trotter, and he attributes a secondhand racist remark to Bills owner Terry Pegula. As to Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, Trotter makes a firsthand allegation of inappropriate racially charged commentary. Did you guys hear about this yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Beginning at paragraph 110 of the civil complaint, Trotter explains that in the aftermath of John Gruden's departure from the Raiders in October 2021, after the release of various inappropriate emails, Trotter planned to share on NFL Now a racist statement that allegedly had been made by Jones to Trotter at the 2021 Pro Bowl Hall of Fame game between the Steelers and the Cowboys. Trotter, while on the field before the game, was congregating with other reporters. The complaint alleges at one point Mr. Trotter was speaking to Will McClay, the Cowboys' vice president of player personnel, about the fact that NFL teams tend not to draft many players out of historically black colleges and universities, also known as HBCUs, and whether that might be due to the lack of black people in personnel decision-making positions, like general managers. Mr. Jones joined the conversation, and Mr. Trotter asked why teams had so few black decision makers. And he says Mr. Jones dodged the question and stated that players get a large percentage of league revenue and majority of players are black. In effect, Mr. Jones was stating that black people should be, quote, be happy for what they have and not seek further advancement of their rights, positions in society, or equality. And Mr. Trotter reiterated his question, to which Mr. Jones responded, I'm starting to feel a little defensive.
Mm-hmm.
However, notwithstanding Jones' previous answer on history of conduct, Trotter made it clear that he was not attacking him or even speaking about the Cowboys, but just asking about the league in general. And then on to paragraph 116 of the complaint, Mr. Jones finally responded, quote, if blacks feel some kind of way, they should buy their own team and hire who they want to hire. This is the point at which I would like to point out that Jerry Jones has denied the allegation and said that it is inaccurate. And as far as the Bills owner, he has said it's completely untrue on his end of things.
You know why I don't think this story will gain any traction?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing. It's why, in the offseason when the pictures surfaced of young Jerry Jones at when they were integrating his school in Arkansas, and he, everyone tried to make a big deal out of it. But at the end of the day, I don't think the story has any traction because I think in general, most people assume that Jerry Jones is kind of a racist.
Thank you. Yes, we do.
He's an 80-year-old man from Arkansas. He's, that's
not shocking. The only reason it's a headline is because he owns the Cowboys. I guarantee you there's another 80-year-old man in Arkansas right now saying the same stuff, and no one's shocked by it because it's an 80-year-old white guy in Arkansas.
No, there's also a million 80-year-old men across this country when that statement was made went, I know.
Yeah, I agree.
So anytime stuff like this comes out, it just takes me back to when Bill Burr was talking about the former owner of I think it was Golden State. When all the racist allegations.
You're talking about Donald Sterling, the owner of the Clippers.
Yeah, that's
the Clippers. Sorry, the Clippers. The Clippers. Yeah. When he said all the things he said, and Bill came out and was like, "Yeah, was anybody surprised?" He's like, if he was at his age and how he grew up, if he wasn't racist, I'd be stunned.
Yeah, you're right. I think that would be more surprising the other way. The thing I think is always interesting is the Cowboys. Everything is under a scope. It's under a magnifying glass. Everything's always blown up because it's the Cowboys. And it's no different with Jerry Jones, except some of the Cowboys players that are not able to withstand some of the controversy. Many have over the years. Sometimes they don't. Like, I don't think Terrence Williams ever truly recovered from falling off that scooter in Frisco. And I mean like the actual two-wheel Razor scooter, not like an actual motorized scooter. Anyway,
Correct. Yeah.
I digress. No matter what controversy has ever popped up in front of or behind Jerry Jones, he's always been able to skate by it, slip through it, whatever it is. People talk about, Donald Trump being the Teflon Don. Jerry Jones is more slippery than any other sports owner, than any other 80-year-old man making questionable comments or doing questionable things. Honestly, at the end of the day, Jerry Jones to me is kind of like a dolphin. He's horny and he's slippery.
And I'll tell you who I always compare Jerry Jones to, and it's because they're same age and from the same city, is Bill Clinton. Like, talking about, like, it's just, everything just kind of rolls off. Like might be in an S storm for a little bit, but at the end of the day, he's going to get through it.
And now, I think part of the reason why
other people that might get taken out.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah,
not
definitely.
him.
And I think part of the reason why is, one, it's popularity, and two, at the end of the day, he's kind of likable.
I don't know if Jerry Jones is in any way likable. I wouldn't say that. I would just say that it's not shocking. Like when I saw the picture, like the same picture that Trey was talking about of when they were integrating a school, the first thing I saw was the kid with the cigarette. Like that was, I was like, they could smoke then? Like that was my.
See?
I wasn't
segregation wasn't the only change that was happening at the time.
Yes, and there was a no smoking policy apparently went up, but that's what because that you. When it and not to take it to a serious note, but when it comes to racism and things like that, I'm 40. I'll be 48 this year. I've dealt with it a lot. And nothing stuns me. So when I hear this stuff and I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, unless the league does something about it, then bravo. But nobody else is going to do anything. And it's not going to gain any traction just because I go, oh, yeah, look who said it. Like,
and it's also just an allegation. As far as we know, there's no audio of this. There's no video of it. So it's basically it's a he said type of situation. One of you is a reporter, one's a billionaire owner in the NFL. Who do you think is going to come out ahead?
Exactly. Who can buy the media enough to where this story gets buried every single time? And it's also the other white owner of another team is going, I didn't hear nothing. And you're like, oh, okay, that I got you. And it's when they call it a good old boys club, that's what they mean. It's they all have the same thought process. They all think the same way because for us to think people evolve, they grow up that way in that isolated cocoon of billionaires and that society. To think that they're just going to wake up one day and evolve and go, everything I've ever thought was wrong is kind of presumptuous on our part.
And Trey, you think he's going to skate this?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I doubt, like, by a week from now, this is even a story.
I'm actually kind of with you. And ironically, that's the reason why I wanted to bring it up, is because I bet by the time we record the next Treehouse Football Podcast,
yeah,
it's not going to be a thing at all. I'm honestly less curious about what possible or what alleged racist comments or racially charged comments Jerry Jones has. I'm more interested in the girl that said, "You're my father."
Yeah. How do we? Yeah. What happened to that part? Like,
well, and there's also, there is and it happened in the last week that there's also a sexual harassment lawsuit against Jerry that a judge said could move forward. So. It's not that Jerry's without problems. I just don't think this one, because at the end of the day, and I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, but I money and power, NFL is such a big business. I mean, it is a juggernaut, and it is so tied into every media outlet that at the end of the day, I think they can bury a story if it gained traction. But like I said, I think everyone just kind of goes, it's Jerry. He's probably a racist.
And kind of to what you're saying, Trey, is that Jerry Jones has a really big shovel.
Oh yeah,
he can bury whatever he wants if he chooses.
I also think Jerry Jones wakes up every morning and like reads these things and just all he says is like, "God damn it, Scotch!" Like that's like
he blames all his problems on Johnny
Blue
Walker.
You're listening to the Treehouse Visit us online at treehouseonair.com.
You're in the Treehouse. Visit us online at treehouseonair.com.
Welcome back to the Treehouse Football Podcast, number 1. Now that we've had our grubby Jerry Jones fingers all over the Dallas Cowboys week 1 and a look ahead to week 2 against an Aaron Rodgers-less New York Jets, it's now time. What's that, Trey?
Oh, it's funny. You're talking about Jerry Jones and how, like, he is like Teflon. Nothing's going to stick to him. And then you have, on the other end of the spectrum, have y'all read about the Michigan State football coach, Mel Tucker?
No, what is this?
Okay. So now the backdrop.
Real quick, I don't want to sound like I'm a complete sports moron when it comes to current events. I know something happened with Michigan State's head coach, but I don't know exactly. And I wasn't sure if it was related to the gymnastics controversy they had with the Michigan State doctor for the women's gymnastics team. So I wasn't sure if those two were combined. So there's something new?
Yes. So now the backdrop of this is the Larry Nassar situation, and that Michigan State for years, knowingly or unknowingly, was a haven for Larry Nassar to just do horrible things to girls. And so, there was a culture of cover up and everything else. So they brought in
football. What?
Well, in sports, I mean, that was gymnastics, but so they brought in a woman to basically be the compliance officer, not only, a Title IX compliance officer to make sure that there was good reporting, that there was no retribution against people who were making claims, anything else. Well, evidently she and Mel Tucker, the head football coach of Michigan State, became friends to the point where he was masturbating while on the phone with her.
Did you say they were friends?
Well, they were friendly, I guess.
Was this his really, really horrible attempt at getting out of the friend zone?
Who knows? And of all, I don't care if she was begging you just like, she is the compliant, like, she's not going to lose in this situation.
No, and I would well, first of all, if I'm Mel Tucker, the head football coach at Michigan State, the first thing I would be thinking of is my 10-year, $95 million contract.
Right.
The second thing I would be considering is if the Title IX compliance officer for the university, if, Trey, like you said, she was begging me, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, I want you to do it, I would assume it's a test. And if I fail that test, I'm out of my $95 million. I'm not going to assume, she wants me. No, I'm going to assume it's a test and I should pass it.
I didn't know, again, like with you, Dan, I didn't know which scandal we were talking about. So I read a little bit about this, and I think what the angle that I just love saying Mel Tucker, because it's just just an old, like, nobody, there's no fresh Mels coming out anymore. Like, there's nobody's naming a kid Mel anymore. It's like we're done with Mels and Barbaras. Like, there's no more Rhonda.
I have faith. I think what's old becomes new again. I think Melvin may make a comeback sometime.
I don't think so. And I don't think there's kids being born today. Like, there's a guy has a daughter and he's like, I'm gonna name her Rhonda. Like, that, I think those names are gone. But Mel, I don't know how much of this is what his perception was or what the truth is, or if it was just a bad breakup. His take on it, this was a consensual phone sex thing between the fact that they were an item behind the scenes, and
he's married, I believe.
Yes, and again, it goes back into yes, but behind the scenes, I think it was. We kept it a secret because she is the compliance officer, and that's why we kept it a secret. And I think and
because he's married, so it would make sense if they were having a relationship to keep it quiet for those two reasons.
And $95 million.
That too.
Okay. You're in like the second year of that 10-year, $95 million contract. But okay.
Yeah.
Roz,
I think
we'll say all of that. Stipulate. You're now the head coach of a major college football program. So obviously you have some semblance of intelligence and everything else. And you're married. So you know that if stuff goes south, that you're dealing with someone who could absolutely wreck your life.
Yes, but you've also both of you guys have also just hit on everything beforehand when you're like, they have the power to cover things up. There is a history of cover-ups. There is a history of burying things. So when you see this, you're okay. First of all, men have started
in other words,
wars.
You're saying that he could possibly feel invincible.
Yeah, and also when it comes to men being more intelligent, when it comes to the fair sex,
I didn't say more intelligent.
No. When he's like for that situation,
Trey
like,
just said that he was smart in football terms.
Yeah,
he got to where he is. He's got to be somewhat intelligent. When it comes to like men and women, like we've started wars because of for women's sake, like to garner their attention. We're not the brightest when it comes to that situation.
We will do pretty much anything at our disposal to get laid.
Yeah, there's a great interview with I don't know if you remember Steve-O from Jackass. Like he liked this girl in high school and he thought she was the cutest thing in the world, and he was wanting her to ditch class with him, and she's like, we can't, we don't have an excuse to get out. So he ripped a tooth out of his mouth, and he's just gushing, like just physically ripped the tooth out of his mouth, and like asked to be excused from class to go to the nurse, and he goes, his last words were, he goes, man, she didn't think that was cool. Like I'm like, yeah, okay, so
yeah, and most women don't want to make out with a blood-soaked human.
Yeah, and so we're not the brightest when it comes to it. I think he went, if I keep it quiet, she could stand to lose too. She's a compliance officer and we're having a relationship. But also it's me, and they just signed me to $95 million. They're going to do whatever it's going to take. And I think he's thinking of that time back in those days when that was the top of the list. Like, hey, we keep all of this quiet, shut up about it because we have $95 million to lose. And now we're in a different time where it's like, hey, listen, we got to call it for what it is.
Yeah, but you are the head coach of a major program. You have $95 million. Of all the women that you decide to have an affair with, there are very few that really could topple you. But the one, because she was brought in, she already has outstanding credibility. And all it takes is one fight, and you're screwed. All it takes is one fight of, hey, what do you want to eat tonight? And it ends up, oh yeah, I had you were playing with yourself on the phone. I'm gonna go tell everyone.
No, it's like the fight is like, what do you want to have for dinner tonight? Whatever you had with your wife the other night. Like that's what that. and you said something, and I think you meant it backwards, because you said of all the women you could have an affair with, you do mean when it comes to him, of all the women that would have an affair with you. like I don't know, there's not a lot of people going around like, I'm banging Mel. Like, see that.
Well, no, here's the thing though, but there are, and that's the other side of this is where the two of you actually coincide with the two sides of the things that you're saying. He feels invincible because he's powerful. He's a big football coach, and they'll cover up anything. And then Trey's also saying, it's like, well, this is a powerful and rich man. There are plenty of options for powerful rich men
on a campus where you have undergrad, you have assistants, there's a student body there. You're not shortage of there's no shortage of options of all the people that you decide you're going to risk everything. The one that, like, if it was some grad student, assistant, he could probably bully her, pay her off with $100,000, and this goes away. You pick the one where if she goes ballistic on you, you're screwed, because she can take you down. Like, she was brought in just for this very purpose, to bring you down. Anyone who was going to do this.
Yeah. And again, I always say, like, let it all play out. And if it turns into a lover's spat or whatever, but if it is legitimate, like in that situation, like, and I don't know, because I've never done something like that. What were they talking about? Like, that he felt the need to do, like, if that was the case, like, it couldn't have been like, hey, let's talk about like the next compliance, like the next seminar that we have about sexual assault, and how to catch sexual assault, know that it's happened to you or whatever, and how to report it, whatever. What is going on there where you feel compelled to do that? If not for, they were, as he said, having a mutual phone sex thing, and this turned into to whatever it's turned into. I do like.
Yeah, I could actually see that conversation getting awkward pretty fast as she's trying to go through the bullet points of the next compliance meeting for Title IX purposes, and his response is, "What are you wearing?"
A suit. What kind? Law.
At the end of the day, I'll be very curious to see how it turns out. But as it is, he's done. He's been suspended. They're going to end up firing him, and because that school just cannot. No school can really tolerate it. But Michigan State with the Larry Nassar stuff really, really has to be firm. Sorry for the pun on this.
Yeah, 100%. And I love the fact that they suspended him without pay, because normally what they'll do to kind of like placate the whole thing is like, hey, we're going to suspend you like in the media, but we'll still keep giving you your salary. And this one, I think when you're like, you're right. I think I think he's done, because they're like, listen, we're not giving you any more money.
Yeah.
Because
Michigan State's basically saying we're going to keep the remainder of your contract.
Yeah. And then I don't know, like, and then in my head, I'm like, I don't know where it's situations like this. I'm like, where do you go? What do you do after? Like you can't. It's not like you can go. Like you can't go to a high school and like, hey man, I used to coach in Michigan State. You can hire me. And they're like, yeah, but you're not allowed to have a phone.
But you were allegedly beaten off on the phone with the compliance officer, so we don't know how you're going to fit in with the guidance counselors in high school.
Yeah. If this is what he does to a compliance officer, I can't imagine what he would do to a parole officer.
There will be some small school that will, go, oh wait, we can have him. And
absolutely. It worked for Art Briles leaving Baylor.
But just for a second, I mean, Art Briles is still the pariah of, Christ. They got like the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma has been skewered this week just for having Art Briles on the field on Saturday at the Oklahoma game. But
my point is someone still hired him.
Oh yeah. Like they thought, oh yeah, we can get away with this. And then, every place, I think the Canadian Football League, and then I think maybe Liberty or someone like that, Liberty University.
There are many categories of cockroach occupations. One is football coach, and another one is bad radio shows. They always seem to find a way to get hired, despite all the evidence being to the contrary that they'll have any modicum of success. But it only takes one program director or one athletic director to say, you know what? I like this. I'm gonna make this decision. I'm gonna hire this guy.
You think Mel has a brewery?
I think everyone's got a brewery these days. I'm shocked we don't have one. We should start one. I mean, we're already branching out with a football podcast. Why not a Treehouse brewery run by a current functional alcoholic? An Indian son of immigrants from Mesquite, and a bona fide alcoholic who's been sober for 7 years. If that's not a recipe for success for an alcohol brand, I don't know what is.
Yeah, 3 unwise men.
Enjoy a clusterfuck draft.
We'll be the most entertaining. Well, yeah, there's no doubt.
I'll put the India in IPA. Let's do it.
Ours is actually authentic. Because Raj is the Indian, Trey is pale, and I'm drinking the ale. Normally, this is where I would end a show, but there's one more thing that I want to touch on. Again, sorry for the pun. Here in the very first episode of the Treehouse Football Podcast.
That was great.
And that is, we started the show with the surprise of the Cowboys putting up 40 points and shutting out the Giants in week 1. The surprise of Aaron Rodgers not being able to complete his first offensive series as a New York Jet. And now my question for you, Mr. Trenholm, is this. Now my question for you, Raj, is this. Who do you think was more surprised that Trey's Longhorns upset Alabama? Alabama or Trey?
I'm gonna go with Trey.
Really?
Yeah.
So you think Alabama was less surprised getting beat at home by 11th ranked UT than Trey, who was saying before the game to me via text message, yeah, this doesn't look good. They're not ready for that hostile environment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when I think of the ultimate optimist, Trenholm doesn't come to mind.
None.
So if you're giving me the option of one Trenholm versus 88,000 people in the stadium in Alabama, I'm going with Trent.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I've watched. I think the quarterback. I think for UT. I'm just glad he cut his hair. I know I sound like an old crowd. I'm like the mullet thing, whatever. I don't understand that coming back. But he looks good, man. I like the guy. The team looks good. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You know, for someone like that, that may have been one of the more impressive things is Ewers, because he's been just berated about his performance last year. And, you know, you have, I forgot there's one quarterback who's supposed to be great, but then you have Arch Manning in the wings. Yeah. And so there's a huge amount of pressure. You know, a lot of people were like, why is he even starting? Yeah. And then you go into Alabama, and I mean, it was the worst home loss Nixon, like first time they've had a non-conference home loss in like 20 years, and worst loss Saban's had since like 2003. I mean, they just physically dominated Alabama, and no, I would have bet everything that was not going to happen. And you know,
and I'm not sure who I feel worse for. Nick Saban's soul that I'm convinced he sold to the devil many years ago, or the sack of puppies that I assume that he bludgeoned after the game.
No puppies were harmed in the making of this podcast.
As far as we know. Well, it wouldn't surprise me if Nick Saban was the Cruella de Vil of college football.
Yeah, no. He looks like he like the players didn't get to eat that night. Like that's what like you're gonna win or you're gonna eat, one of the two.
But you want to talk about not having a response from your friends. We were talking about the Cowboys and Giants and checking on your Giants friends. Yeah. I have 3 Alabama friends, 2 of which I still have not heard from. And I wasn't even talking crap to him during the game. And one of them who I knew, he was at the game. Like, he is a big Alabama alumni booster. And I was like, are you okay? Like, I didn't see that one coming. You know, it's going to be. And as a Texas fan, I can offer the perspective of disappointment. It's what we know. Yeah. And so, especially early season disappointment. And I'm like, it's okay. You know, y'all can still come back from this. It's early.
And he was responsive?
No, he still has not responded.
He's not. So that's 2 of your 3 Alabama fans you have not heard from? I have
not heard from my Giant fan either.
Is it possible that those Bama fans somehow found their way into the puppy sack?
Do they know Saban? Or did they?
Yeah.
I don't know what tends to use them in now.
Joe might have been so distraught that he put himself in the puppy sack just to...
Sort of like an offering up to Coach Saban.
Yeah.
He's got to sacrifice.
If this will mean Alabama will win, beat me.
First loss like that, he has to sacrifice a booster.
He just kneels down in front of Nick Saban. He says, "No, roll Dan, Tide."
Yeah. Dan, now you're being silly. He's got to kneel down at Saban's altar. That he does have. Like, we know he's got this. Like, he's got a dungeon with an altar, and he just sits there and he waits for them to sacrifice their first booster. Yeah, I like it. I was stunned, but I was very optimistic going into it. I was like, you know what? This could be. There's always that great upset in the early weeks of college football.
And I told Trey before the game, I said, look, I have no dog in this fight. Like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, I didn't go to college to cheer for a football team because I went to UT Arlington that didn't have one. I went actually for broadcasting stuff. And so I don't have a favorite college team on any sport, whatever. I just like to watch a good game. What I told Trey before this game is, I'm not cheering for your Longhorns. I hope the best for you as my friend. Yeah. And I actually do think, I didn't think Texas was going to win the game, but my hope was that they would, because if they do, it's good for college football as a whole. It's very sad for those puppies in Nick Saban's office, but it's good for the rest of college football if Bama loses to Texas at home.
Yeah. I mean, I was was going to go to UT. I was accepted to UT. I ended up going to Southwest Texas State, which is in the state, Texas state school institutions. If you could compare them to the Jackson 5, Texas State is Tito. So
what would UT Arlington be? Would that just be like an offshoot cousin no one even knows?
Latoya.
Oh.
He could have said Reeve. He could have been the Jackson that never sang.
Look, I don't know if the two of you have realized this, but I'm not exactly arguing. There it is. Episode number 1 of the Treehouse Football Podcast, coming to you weekly, a new branch of the Treehouse Podcast. Follow all things for the shows at treehouseonair.com, social media at Treehouse On Air, me at the Dan O'Malley, Trey at Trey Trinholm 1, and for Raj at Comedian Raj. We will see you next time in the Treehouse.
See you. Latoya.